Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. I'm David Falkenberg, Director of Product here at CloudRadial. Joining me today is Stephen Larson, one of our full stack developers. Just bear with me for a second while I get my screen share here working. There we go. All right. We're excited to show you something we've been building around the API. It's a lot more on the screen here than I expected. Hold on. There we go. All right, so we're excited to show you something we've been building that fundamentally changes what CloudRadial can do for your MSP. Today, we're going to talk about our open API platform, specifically how you can extend CloudRadial to handle any asset type you manage, not just the ones we've built into the product. We're going to show you a couple live demonstrations, walk through a couple of use cases, and give you the resources you need to start building this into your client portals immediately. So let's dive in. We keep hearing from partners, CloudRadial is great for showing clients their endpoints and servers, but I manage so much more than that. I need to show network equipment, mobile devices, UPS systems. Things that don't fit into CloudRadial's predefined categories. And you know what? You're absolutely right. Every MSP has unique services, unique clients, and unique assets they manage. You shouldn't have to wait for our development roadmap to showcase that in your client portal. So we've built a comprehensive API platform that lets you extend CloudRadial however you need. You can automate data flow from your existing tools, define completely custom asset types, deliver professional client experiences for any technology you manage. This isn't just about pulling data out of CloudRadial. It's about making CloudRadial work the way your MSP works. Let me give you a quick overview of what's available in the V2 platform. For the core platform, we've opened up the API, and you can automate endpoint management. You can sync device inventory from RMM or other tools. You can update status information and manage custom properties. On the screen here, we're showing endpoints, companies, users, and the custom properties, but you can access courses and content and other items as well. You can programmatically update companies and users, including data from sources other than Microsoft 365 and your PSA. And you can extend your existing models with custom properties specific to your workflows. But today, we're going to focus on something brand new that just became available. It's called flexible assets. This is a capability that lets you define completely custom asset types, UPS systems, network switches, mobile devices, other specialized equipment unique to your clients. You define the data structure through API calls. CloudRadial handles the presentation in the client portal. This has been our most requested API capability, and we're excited to show you how it works. But first, let's talk a little bit why this matters for your business. Right now, you're managing technology through multiple tools. Your RMM knows about devices, your PSA tracks tickets and contracts. You might have ITGlue or spreadsheets for other documentations. But your clients, they only see fragments of what you actually do for them through CloudRadial. And that creates problems. You're manually entering data across multiple systems. You can't showcase specialized surfaces that differentiate your MSP. When clients ask about their network equipment or mobile devices, you're sending them somewhere else or emailing them. It's not a great client experience. The API platform solves this. You automate data flow from your other tools directly into CloudRadial. Clients get comprehensive visibility into their complete technology environment through one branded portal. You can extend the platform to showcase your unique service offerings. The result? Your clients see 100% of what you manage, not just 30. And it's all delivered through CloudRadial's interface that you're already using. So today I said we're going to focus on flexible assets. It's the capability that lets you define custom asset types. This really came directly from what you told us. We heard I need to show network switches in the client portal. My clients have specialized equipment I can't track in CloudRadial. I need to keep track of my clients' mobile devices. I think everyone's got that one. They're kind of all over the place, right? So flexible asset solves all these problems. In the next little bit, Stephen and I are going to show you these couple of demos. First, we're going to look at a pre-built example, network infrastructure. Actually, I'm going to show mobile devices that every MSP manages. You'll see it from the client's perspective, you'll see it from your perspective, and how you can control the visibility of some of that stuff. And then Steven's gonna be brave and show some live demos of poking stuff into the API and show you a little bit about how it has to work. So let's move on to the demos. Flip over here. So this is my Blue Fox demo portal. I'm going to flip over to my second tab here. I am currently logged in as Patricia Murphy. So Patricia Murphy is a client administrator at my client Riverfront Healthcare, and we've enabled some flexible assets for her. So those will appear in Patricia's infrastructure menu, and you can see I've got mobile applications, mobile devices, and network devices in here. And if I click on mobile devices, Patricia can see the mobile devices that we're keeping track of. So laundry list here of Android tablets, Android phones, iPads, so on. Let's take a look at Sarah Martinez's iPad, and there's the detail view. So this was all brought in through the API, which Stephen will show you shortly. So if I flip over to, I'm back in as me, I'm in the partner view and partner settings, feature sets for starters. And you can see down at the bottom of my feature set, inside infrastructure, here's those menus for the mobile application and the mobile devices that were created through flexible assets. So I can turn this on or turn this off as part of the feature set. As a partner, that gives me the flexibility to define multiple feature sets. So maybe I'm only tracking mobile devices for Riverfront Healthcare. I don't want that menu item to show up or be available for my other clients. I can disable that by customizing these feature sets. We covered it off in the security menu as well with the roles. Once these flexible assets are built into the system, if I look into my role definition and the permissions that are available, I've got a new section down at the bottom for flexible assets, and I can control and set my usual read, write, delete, and full permissions based on the devices that have been brought into the system. So that gives me the full control of roles to be able to control what my clients are actually going to see as I bring these things into the system. And that's it for that demo. Let's flip it over to Stephen. And Stephen, why don't you show everyone how this actually works?
Sure. All right. Yeah, let's do it. Let's be brave. Let's do a live demo. Okay. So similar to how Dave showed you in the Riverfront Healthcare, I'm going to do the exact same portal. I'm logged in as company admin. If you're familiar with CloudRadial, you understand that we can do impersonations. That's basically what I'm doing here. So you'll see after a little bit of a refresh that we have under our infrastructure tab, which is where all of our flexible assets live at the moment. We have our standard domains, endpoint, server, software. Mobile applications is one of our flexible assets, and mobile devices is what David just showed you. So how do we actually get these flexible assets in our portal? The API. We have full CRUD capabilities currently in the API. We actually, in fact, have two different ways of getting flexible assets into the API. The way that I'm going to show you is using our ITGlue-compatible API. It was built with the idea of more or less being a one-to-one spec, a one-to-one way of getting your assets from ITGlue into CloudRadial. So you only have to look for your assets in a single spot. However, if you're not using ITGlue or you don't want to use their API or their spec, we also have a CloudRadial flavored version of flexible assets where you can send your data to us using a more familiar API. So with that in mind, let's see what a flexible asset type looks like. You can see using the CloudRadial spec, and in fact, I'll actually maximize this window. You can see using the CloudRadial spec that we define our type, and our type has fields. Now, the fields will be any kind of flexible asset data properties that you can think of, dynamic fields. In this case, for our network devices, we have a device name, we have a device type, manufacturer, model, so on and so forth. We can set the specific order of how these will show up in the grid. We have the kind property, which tells us, okay, what's the data property type, whether it's a text, maybe it's a text box, numbers, so on and so forth. We can specify whether a field is required, and we can also give a bit of a hint and say this serial number is really the device serial number. Yeah, so if we want to ship this off to our API, we modify our endpoints, make sure that we are pointing at the compatibility / flexible asset types endpoint. We can send that off. We'll get a lovely little Oh no, live demo things. Error exception. What did I do? Oh, my apologies. I did this earlier. Flexible asset types must have a unique name. So in this case, we're just going to call it network devices 1. And there we go. This is the response that we expected. We can see down here when it was created. We can see the name, network devices 1. Its description. We can see all the fields that were created with it. And we can see the ID, which we're going to need as we create actual assets. So yeah, that's a very important caveat that I forgot, which is that network flexible asset types need to have a unique name. If they do not, then you'll encounter an error. That's something that we will be triple sure to document as well. So now that we have our asset types in our database, we can refresh here. We won't have any data in it, but we can refresh under infrastructure. We'll see, oh, network devices 1. If we open it up, there's nothing here, but we can see that the grid represents the schema of what we just inserted into the database. So let's put some data into this. What's nice is we can effectively do a bulk insert of data under compatibility, organizations, org ID, which is really the CloudRadial company ID. In this case, for Riverfront Healthcare, our company ID is 5. Relationships, flexible assets. The URL is a little bit of a word salad. That's more or less copying in line with the ITGlue spec of what their URLs and endpoints expect. Motivation being to keep this as simple and straightforward as possible for anyone wanting to migrate from ITGlue to CloudRadial. So as you'll see, we have our ID of 5. Now we have to go in here, unfortunately, and update our IDs. But effectively what we do is we specify the type, which is a flexible asset. We specify on the bulk insert, we don't have to specify the organization ID, but we have to ensure that all of our actual data properties, all of our assets have a flexible asset ID of type 5. Otherwise, our validation will fail because we'll be validating against an incorrect asset type. And by validation, I mean we ensure that when you submit an attribute or when you submit an asset to us, we ensure that you can't just like give us a random trait name. We ensure that the trait name matches the type. We ensure that the data that you associate with that trait is a best fit match with the expected data type, i.e. the kind that we specified earlier in the type. So say, for example, this port count was 48. If we changed it to a string that said hello, or rather a string that said hello, this will throw an error for us. We'll likely get a bad request or an unprocessable entity. So we do have validation in place to ensure that that you don't send us bad data, or that we let you know that something is not correct. So if we send this off, we'll be sending out our 6 assets. We can see, oh, great, they're created. We have some additional properties that are generated properties, but otherwise we have our device name, device type, manufacturer, model, serial number, goes on and on and on. So now when we refresh, we'll see, oh, all of our data is in here. Some of the items in the grid versus some of what we define down here don't show up. That is an intentional design where we want to show you only the most important features and the most important data. That is something that we can set based off this show and list property. But if we open these guys up, you'll see all the important information is here laid out in a grid. Yeah, I think that's about it. So I will hand it back to David. Thank you for bearing with me.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Stephen. And I'm actually kind of glad that you ran into the little issue there, the glitch with the error, because I think that's important for our partners to understand that we do have that validation in place to check the data integrity and make sure that things are going to come in the right way for them. So that's great. I think I'm back to sharing my screen now. So let's talk about what this means for your business. On the immediate value side, you can now show clients 100% of what you manage for them, not just their computers and endpoints and some of the other basic things. We're seeing MSPs reduce support calls because they don't have to call you to ask anymore. You can actually present this to them in the portal, make it accessible to them. All those when, where is, and when does it expire questions that clients can now answer for themselves becomes a major differentiator. You're delivering a unified portal experience while your competitors are still sending spreadsheets. And you can potentially eliminate separate documentation systems because everything can live in CloudRadial now. For common use cases, think about what this enables. Network infrastructure is the obvious one, right? Switches, routers, firewalls, UPS systems, security cameras, just about anything you can think of, you can bring in as a flexible asset. We talked about mobile devices a little bit, as well as another one that can be brought in. But you could do manufacturing equipment, educational technology, anything really. The flexibility here is the key. If you manage it, you can show it in CloudRadial. Now, flexible assets, as I talked about at the beginning, is really just one part of this V2 API platform. Let's quickly talk about some of the other things you can build since you now have API access to all of the core data structures inside of CloudRadial. You can sync endpoints from your RMM or other systems automatically. The ones that we haven't built native integrations with, you can build them in, bring them in yourself. You can provision users from Microsoft 365, which you can do today, but you can also augment it. You can also bring it in from other sources now. So if you've got other lists of users, other records of users, you can bring that stuff in as flexible assets or into the core system. You can update device statuses from different monitoring tools. If there's something that the agent's not reporting or using something different, you can build that in, bring it in yourself. You can pull everything back out. Beginning of this presentation, you mentioned it's not just about pulling it out, but there's definitely a lot of value in being able to pull some of the content out and plug it into different dashboarding tools, Power BI, for example, other things like that. You can extend your compliance reporting. You can integrate it with other BI tools, as I mentioned with the executive dashboards. You can go further with integrations and custom client onboarding. All right, you can bring in other sources and bring in data from other sources and go from there. The point is, this is a comprehensive platform for extending CloudRadial however your MSP needs. Flexible assets is the newest capability. There's a whole ecosystem of possibilities here. So how do you actually get started? We see 3 paths that partners are typically taking, the early adopters who've been jumping into the system. First, start simple. Pick one asset that you've got that's semi-universal across all your clients. Network equipment is probably a good example, but so would mobile devices be. And you can use the examples we're providing in our API documentation. Some of that documentation is coming soon, but there is comprehensive Swagger documentation in place already right now, and we'll be building on that. That will let you see immediate value in the client portal. You can take another tool that you've got and integrate that into CloudRadial, augment users or sync from other sources. Our partner success team is here to support the implementation. So you can give us a call. We'll help you define what it is that you want to do and make sure it's working for you correctly. The documentation, as I mentioned, is in place. We will be beefing that up. And of course, we've got the CloudRadial community where you can share different integration patterns, different ideas, and work with each other, help each other out to leverage the API a little bit more. So, oh, I didn't update the slides. That's my bad. Crystal, I'm hoping we'll be able to reach out to people with the links that are missing from the slides here, specifically the V2 API documentation. For those listening, actually, I think I saw Renee on there. Renee, could you paste the Swagger document or the Swagger link into the chat for our participants here today? And then the API documentation is available at developers.cloudradial.com. Have a look at it, figure out or start thinking about what your first integration or asset type should be. And of course, give us a call if you want some help getting started. I think we're tracking ahead of schedule. Not that much. So yeah, do we have some questions? I haven't been looking at the chat other than noticing that Renee, our Chief Technology Officer, is in there. Have we got some questions or anything?
No, I don't see any questions coming through that we haven't already answered by the team. Let's see, let me just filter through. Okay, can you create new pages and new assets manually instead of using the API?
No, not yet. Right now, you have to use the API to do that. But we are looking at augmenting CloudRadial with some additional features to offer more flexibility through the UI for controlling the pages, the order, the groupings, that sort of thing. So we're still defining and designing exactly what that's going to look like, but you will be able to add those pages down the road. Right now, it's API only.
Okay, awesome. I don't see any questions coming through. If you have them, drop them in the chat, guys. Also, you may have seen it come through in the chat, but if you have questions, contact success at cloudradial.com.
Awesome. Thank you all for joining us today. I'm really excited to see what you build with this platform. And remember, the goal here is to make CloudRadial work the way your MSP works. You've got unique clients, unique services, unique assets you manage. Now you've got the tools to showcase all of that through the CloudRadial UCP. Links to documentation and resources will be in the follow-up email, and don't hesitate to reach out if you need help as you start implementing. Thanks again. We'll see you at the next deep dive.